Welcome back to another episode of Built and Backed. I'm super excited to have Shane Lykins here today, who is a founder and product builder based in San Francisco. Shane is exploring the intersection of AI in marketplaces. He's worked on product and growth across some of tech's most recognizable names, including Airbnb, Pinterest, and Outdoorsy. Today, Shane focuses on building AI-powered micro SaaS tools and launching fast, scrappy experiments that solve real problems for startups. Whether he's advising early stage teams or spinning up his own ventures, Shane brings a builder's mindset, a founder's urgency, and a curiosity for what's next. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
I know, I'm like, look at that impressive bio you have.
Thank you. It's wild. I feel like when you're in the thick of it, you often people like me and like you always want more, and you're always
Hmm.
like, "Am I doing enough?" And it's
Totally.
hard. You don't reflect enough. So,
Right.
thank you for that intro. I feel like it's crazy the path I've been on, and I know we'll get a little bit into that as well.
Yes, which I'm excited to explore more because, like you mentioned, your bio shares that you've been involved in so many different things throughout your career. So that's where I'd love to start is just having you share more about yourself and where you started and how that led you to what you're doing today.
Oh my goodness. Do you want the short or the long story?
Whatever you think is best.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, it's funny because I feel like the more people I work with and come across in the software industry, everyone has like these different, interesting, diverse backgrounds. So it's really fun to learn about like where people came from and the ideals or the experiences that really shaped them. So
Hmm.
I grew up in Southern California, which is where I'm at right now. So I spend my summers down in San Diego visiting family and kind of showing my kids where I grew up and kind of the childhood that I experienced. I went to business school. I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but I had no idea what that meant. My grandfather owned car washes when I was a kid growing up.
Mm.
And I remember picking up Rich Dad, Poor Dad and immediately just recognizing my grandfather, who was very gracious with his time and his resources and, had all these kind of assets that were making income for him. And he was able to spend time with his grandkids. And I remember thinking really early on, I wanted to do something like that, but I had no idea how to get into something like that, or what that looked like. But I knew that if I majored in business, then that was probably putting me on the right path. So I went to business school, and around that time, I guess I feel like I'm so much older than you, so I feel like I don't want to date myself too much. But around that time was like when Lyft and Uber like were starting to become a thing. In fact, I have a really funny story about how I met the founders of Lyft right before they started Lyft.
No
Uh,
way.
maybe we'll get into that later. But I started to become fat. I've always was kind of fascinated with technology and computers. I was always the kid like begging my parents to use their computer. Dial up, instant messenger type days. You kind of put in the floppy disk to kind of get the internet started, and you like go take a shower and come back, and hopefully things have like powered up. And I remember telling my dad that I wanted to work at Google when I was older. And my dad was an airline pilot, and I remember him telling me that the last thing I want to do is be stuck in a cubicle all day and being in back-to-back meetings. And I feel like fast forward, he's right in a lot of sense, but also tech is so much more than that. So, kind of fast forward, I didn't know anyone in the software industry whatsoever. I didn't know what a programmer was. The first time I heard about a designer, like a web designer, I thought it was a person that designed the actual office spaces. I didn't realize there was a thing of like website design. So that's like how far outside the bubble I
Oh my
was.
gosh.
And as I graduated from college. I remember having this feeling that, finally the world had opened up to me. I get to like kind of go do things and make money. And I remember having this exact thought as I was walking campus on the last day of school, which was, I can do anything, but also, what can I do? Like,
Hmm.
I majored in like business management, entrepreneurship type stuff, and the world was really my oyster, and I've always believed that, but I felt kind of lost in like directionally, what should I do?
Yeah.
So I took a really hard kind of like pivot, which is on my 25th birthday, my parents nudged me in the direction of aviation. They probably saw me just having too much fun in college and not having much rudder. And they said, here is a pack of flying classes. Like, go learn how to fly and see if it's something that you enjoy. So I did that, and of course I enjoyed it. Like aviation's a lot of fun. So that led to me getting my private pilot's license, which led to me getting my instrument rating. And then 7 ratings later, I ended up going on this path of like, I'm going to be an airline pilot, like my dad, and I'm going to pursue this kind of business thing on the side, and really scratch this itch that I've had since I was a little kid of being an entrepreneur. So I went on that path for a few years, and that brought me out to Dallas, Texas, took me away from the beaches of San Diego, and I lived in Dallas. I was flight instructing full time. And I remember thinking, in the evenings, I was like trying to teach myself how to program. I was reading about Lyft and Uber, and I remember thinking like, this is not the life that I wanted to live, which was like pursuing my heart, my dreams, my passion, like part time.
Hmm.
Now, granted, at this point, I've invested a lot of money, a lot of years, a lot of energy. I've got a lot of experience in aviation, and I ended up actually getting a job offer to fly for the regional airlines. So I got kind of a conditional
No
job offer.
way.
I reached 1,500 hours. I would have a job at SkyWest, which is one of the most popular regional carriers. And I remember just not being excited about it. So I chatted with my dad and then, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. I said, this sounds crazy, but I want to move to San Francisco and get into software, and maybe not fly for a little bit. Fortunately, they supported me, like both of them, like wholeheartedly. I was very nervous they were gonna both disown me. And I moved to San Francisco and still didn't know anyone. Got my first apartment. I stopped flying because I wanted to like focus on like getting a job in tech. And I did basically anything and everything I could. I drove for Lyft and Uber. I rented my place on Airbnb. And I applied for every single job under the sun. I was applying for like marketing director roles. I didn't know anything. I was just like, that sounds fun. And I've always believed that I could like figure things out, right? So
Oh,
like,
totally.
I was like, yeah, 10 years experience, like they don't really need that. So I was applying for all these roles I was like grossly unqualified for. And fortunately, one of them ended up eventually taking a bite on me and taking a chance on me. And that was Airbnb of all places. I remember just feeling so happy. I think my first job with them, I was making like $22 an hour or something, working in customer support. I didn't care how much I made. It was more so I had a foot in the door and had an opportunity.
Hmm.
And that led me down kind of the path that I'm still on today, over a decade later. So, worked in customer support, had a phenomenal time. Ended up getting promoted a few times. I taught myself SQL. Before I knew it, I was building dashboards for my team and running experiments. And I had a manager that, saw something in me and said, "I want to help you, get to anywhere in the company that you want to go." And I was really grateful for that because I always looked at him as a manager as someone that kind of like scolded you and like
Yeah.
um, wanted you to keep you on their team, especially if you were like a high performer. So for someone to say, "How can I help you get to a different team where A, I can make more money and B, I could like be more fulfilled?" I was like, "Wow, like that's crazy. Like, what is this world?" And that led me on a path of eventually getting into product management. Ended up leaving Airbnb after a few years and joined another marketplace called Outdoorsy. And fast forward even a few more years, I'm still working in product, but it looks a little bit different, especially, in this day and age with AI.
Hmm.
I've got into angel investing. I've started my own company, so I finally scratched that itch of getting into entrepreneurship. And I don't know what tomorrow looks like, like literally. But I'm so excited and I'm grateful for the path that I've been on and the path that I'm going to continue to be on. And I think, reflecting back, I full-heartedly like think I made the right decision. Like I'll
Oh,
often
yeah.
talk to my friends that are still in aviation and they're like, do you miss it? And I'm like, heck yes, I do. I miss flying. I wish I could do more of it, but I don't miss being gone from my family so much. I
Right.
don't miss the grind, the sleepless nights, the time zone differences, the very, very low pay when you first start with the airlines. And frankly, just like the very nature of the job, which is a lot of rote memorization, not a lot of creativity. In fact, if you're creative in aviation, probably people don't want you flying their plane. They just want you to fly it safely. And I just feel so grateful I'm on this path. So probably long-winded answer, but wanted to give you kind of the full backstory that you probably haven't heard before.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say I haven't heard this, but just so interesting to hear, like you said, starting in aviation, then being like, scrap that. I want to go to San
yep,
Francisco, and then
yep.
working with the companies like you mentioned, Airbnb, Outdoorsy, and Pinterest, but now owning your own business and doing your own thing. And so I'm
Mhm,
curious
mhm.
to hear what that transition was like when you knew you were ready to transitioning from working for someone else to now starting your own business and focusing on product and helping other companies.
It's really funny. The short answer is I still don't know if I'm ready. I feel like I feel like we all of us have like this internal voice, which is like imposter syndrome. Like, am
Yeah.
I good enough? Am I actually doing it right? And you really don't know until you try, until you give it a chance, right? Um, but I would say once I started really doing product management type work at Outdoorsy, I started to understand how software was actually built,
Hmm.
how engineering, design, product, data, and all these different teams came together. And I remember thinking pretty early on then that I could do this. I could do this on my own. But of course, it's very, very difficult. You have to have the right idea. You have to have, resources and a team behind you. You have to be really good at selling, selling customers, selling employees to join you, selling investors to invest in you and things of that nature. So it was more so, I was simultaneously I was building this life. When I started
Hmm.
working outdoorsy, my daughter was born. And then my son was born a few years later. So it was kind of constantly this balance, and frankly, still is a balance of doing the right thing for the family and making sure I have, setting them up well financially. But also I'm following my heart and my dream of working for myself,
Yeah.
and doing these things that can kind of create passive income for me and things of that nature. So I think, what I'm doing today, and we'll get a little bit into this with like the consulting or fractional work, I call it,
Hmm.
is really like the best of both worlds because I have my own S Corp LLC. So tax benefits are really, really great. And I get to pick, who I get to work with and kind of the, arrangement of that working. If I don't like a lot of meetings, which I don't anymore, my dad was right about that. I can say no to meetings. Like you can never say that in a real-time role, or in a full.
Definitely not.
So, to me, that's like a middle line of like I work for myself, but also like I am tethered to an organization, and I still have to follow to some extent, rules that they set. But it allows me like all this free time to build. And I've
Yeah.
just been obsessed with AI over the last like few years. And I heard a quote recently which really stuck with me, which is, a lot of times it's hard to really articulate or quantify like if we're on the right path. But if you just follow your gut, the things that like make you happy, then you'll probably go in the right direction. So that's what I tend to do, which is just follow the things that give me energy. The things that you look up and it's been 4 hours and you're like, oh my God, I haven't eaten lunch. That's not like me because I've been
Yeah.
engulfed in the work versus like just looking at the clock every 2 minutes, like, oh my God, when is the workday over? You know?
Hmm. Yeah. I just wrote that quote down because it's so true, and it's also a testament to everything you've been building because like you said, you've just been so passionate about everything with tech and AI and what's going on that it's clear in the work that you produce and especially with the way that you support companies. And so I'd love to hear more about your fractional work, like what it is that you offer and the benefits of a startup working with someone like yourself as they're building out their product.
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So it's funny, I actually fell into fractional work. So after working in big tech for a while, it was after Pinterest where I decided that I actually wanted to go, headfirst into starting my own company.
Hmm.
And I founded this company called Bigfoot. If you go to thebigfoot.com or meetbigfoot.com, the URL, the domain is still live, but it's kind of like a self-operating business at this point. I founded it with a former colleague from Airbnb, and we ended up raising close to $2 million in venture capital
Amazing.
and hired out a team of 15. So before I knew it, I had like all these direct reports of people that I hired. I raised venture capital. I had people on my cap table. I was doing like my dream of like starting a company. And this was when it was maybe, the ZERP era they call it, where it was like easier to raise capital. And ended up raising on the idea that we're building in the consumer space, which is very difficult. But as long as you get enough people coming to your website and they're coming back, then you should be fine. We'll come to find out when the economy flipped upside down, that's not enough. And you actually need to have a real business that's monetizing. So short story there is we ended up running out of runway and had to effectively shut down the business because we never found a real monetization strategy. We
Mm,
built a really fun product that people loved, and stuff a product that I used every single weekend. But it didn't turn into, a venture scalable business. And that's fine. Not all of them do.
yeah.
So after that, I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do next, and I had done some angel investing. I just love working with early stage founders. So this back to this idea of like following your gut or following your heart. I thought I'm just gonna do that. Like I don't know what that looks like, but I'm just gonna like spend time with founders because like those are the people that I love hanging out with.
Hmm.
And I remember, spending more and more time with a certain founder in particular, and they said, "We love working with you. Can we make this official? Like, can we actually like pay for you to do this?" And I was like, "That'd be nice. I actually need some money right now, and I really enjoy working with you as well." So I started I literally just fell into this consulting fractional world. I didn't even realize there was like this way of monetizing the skill that I had built in big tech for so many years
Hmm.
and working with a client part-time so that I can continue on this entrepreneurial journey that where my heart is, right? So that was about a year and a half or so ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I started falling into that. And then since then, my offering has changed a ton of times. I've gone back and forth between calling myself a consultant, a fractional head of product, a lot of different terms. At the end of the day, I'm basically just packaging the skills that I've developed at working at a lot of these great companies, marketplaces, and now AI startups,
Hmm.
and figuring out how to help these early stage companies that need someone like me that has been there, done that, but frankly, they can't afford someone like me full time, right?
Yeah.
Because someone like me that's worked at these companies and has this type of experience, um, just companies aren't going to be able to afford that, right? So they
Hmm.
typically want someone that's just out of school and someone that they can kind of groom and someone that doesn't have the experience. And that works for some other people or other companies. They really want someone that has been there and done that. So
Yep.
what I have found is that, well, what if I work with these companies for a handful hours of a week, a handful of hours a week, and give them, high level, strategic, actionable advice, point them in the right direction, make sure their teams are operating efficiently, and that's proved to be like a really successful model. Over the last few years, maybe over the last year, been obsessed with AI. So it's actually moved from strategy type work to, hey, I actually want to do this work for you. Like,
Yeah.
instead of me telling you and like creating documentation, let me actually like vibe code something for you right now and show you a prototype live. Uh,
Hmm.
and it just back to this, follow where your gut is going. And I realized that that was kind of like dual serving, which is what better way to like actually understand what someone's saying to like embody that experience versus like reading a document, which we've been doing for the last few decades in tech, which has been miserable for everyone. And then also like make myself better at this new technology and like where the world is going. So I've
Totally.
been spending a lot of time doing that. I work with marketplace founders, some SaaS companies, AI startups, a lot of different types of companies. Very, very early stage. Sometimes it's just two founders, an idea on a back of a napkin. Other times, it's a team of 20 or 50 employees, and they're looking to move faster, or they need someone that's kind of like a subject matter expert in the space.
Hmm. And I think what you shared is one of the many things that makes your work so valuable is that you don't just consult on it and hand it to a company and say, "Oh, here's what you could do." Like you follow through and execute on it. And I think that's a huge differentiator for you because companies likely hire someone like yourself because they don't have the time or expertise to do it
Mhm.
in-house. And so if they just get this document, they're like, well, I still don't have someone who can actually
Exactly.
deploy this or make it live. So I think that's a huge value that you bring to them with not only showing them what could be possible, but then actually doing it and like you said, vibe coding and showing them a prototype.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to hear, and this is a broad question, of course, depends on the startup, but I'm curious to hear like what actually makes a product a great product, right? There's all these companies and startups that are building new products and they found a need that they want to provide a solution to. But what actually makes a product a great one?
Such a good question. Oh, I feel like there's so many different types of a product person, and I feel like there's a very uh, you know uh, can't think of the term. There's a very academic response to this, right? I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go the vibe coding response. So I think what makes a good product is something that resonates with the user and helps
Mhm.
them accomplish a goal that you care about, right? And I think it's as simple as that. We build things for a reason. The things that we decide to build is product teams or as product organizations is typically to move a certain business metric, or at least it
Hmm.
should be. It shouldn't be because
Yeah.
the CEO told you to. It shouldn't be, make it pretty because I want it to look pretty. It should be, let's help users convert better. Let's help
Hmm.
users use our product more. Let's help users make it really easy for them to tell their friends about our product. So we get this virality, loop going. So I think a great product is one that's intuitive, it's simple, it's self-explanatory. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, tooltip on top of tooltip and slider on top of slider and pop up, and it's before you know it, it seems like one of those, spammy sites that you land on, and it's like,
Yeah.
what did I just do to my computer, right? Um, so I think it just needs to be very simple, but not simple to the point that it doesn't make any sense. It needs to be
Yeah.
simple, and intuitive.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point too. And especially because you mentioned you're focusing a lot on AI these past few years. And so I'd love to hear how you've leveraged AI either for the clients that you're working with or all the many fun projects that you've been building yourself.
Oh man. I use AI literally for everything. Maybe a little too much, but again, it's like I remember the Lyft Uber days. I remember when Airbnb, was really big and then there was like the scooter wars. Like I don't remember if you
Hmm.
remember like there was all these scooters all over the streets of San Francisco and a lot of other major cities. And we've seen a lot of these waves and cycles of like, different. We had the crypto wave and NFTs, which I got into to all those as well. But I've never seen anything like AI. And there's people that, I trust and I follow that had been around since the dot-com boom and, early iPhone days, so they're much, much older than me. And they say that this is very similar to that, maybe even that on steroids,
Hmm.
which is insane to think about. So I think someone in my position that works in software that lives in San Francisco, that's like in the middle of this AI kind of hype train, whatever's going on, why shouldn't I use AI for literally everything I do, personal and work, all day long?
Yeah.
Um, it's to the point that when I drive my daughter to school, she wants to chat with ChatGPT and ask, do voice mode on ChatGPT. And part of me is like, oh my God, like chat with me instead. But the other part of me is like, this is really cool. I had my daughter build a website on Bolt the other day.
Oh, no
What
way.
6, 7-year-olds are like vibe coding
I was
websites?
just
Like,
gonna say she's gonna be a future vibe coder.
yeah. And she will come to me and that's like fun playtime with her. She's like,
Oh,
Dad,
I
she could
love
literally come
that.
to my office and says, Daddy, can we build another website together?
That's
And I'm like, this
awesome.
is so cool. So to your question, I literally use it for everything.
Yeah.
So I'm really into a lot of the different modalities and ways to interact with AI. And not quite sure of your audience and kind of what level to speak to here. I'm sure there's like a
Hmm.
large gamut of different types of listeners here. But the different modes, everything from, image recognition technology to being able to talk to an agent. I've actually spun up a lot of my own voice agents as well,
Hmm.
which is really cool. I built this technical recruiter that's kind of a conversational agent for I had friends that were going through a lot of interviews and I wanted them to practice their interviews, so I just like built them a voice agent with 11 labs, which is incredible. My cousin the other day didn't realize that with ChatGPT, you can actually turn on video and like chat with ChatGPT voice mode in real time with like the video. So we were over by the marina, up in LA, and I was taking a video of some boats and stuff, and she was like, "It looks like you're in Southern California by the palm trees and the position of the sun," and it just like blew my cousin's mind. So yeah, it's I do a lot of transcription stuff. I found a lot of these really cool tools. Super Whisper is one of them where you don't really need to type anymore. You could just
Hmm.
talk and it transcribes your voice and like shoots off all your text into like different
Oh,
channels,
amazing.
which is freaking cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's something called granola, which I use a ton in meetings, kind of conversations like this, where it's transcribing your conversation behind the scenes. So it's not that annoying kind of agent that pops up on the call and there's like this third party that's sitting there that
Yeah.
you want to
And
look
you're like,
at.
someone's bot is looking at me.
Yeah, it's like Shane's bot wants to like join the conversation, and you're like, deny. So this thing kind of like sits behind the scenes, and it just helps. It's like a note-taking buddy, so I can
Hmm.
like write down and take notes, and then it will expand on that based on the conversation and what it kind of infers from that. But what I'm really really interested in is a lot of these LLM kind of code gen tools, which I talked
Yeah.
about. It's Lovable V0, things that I'm getting my daughter to use. Um, because frankly, I've never had these superpowers before.
Hmm.
Um, I come from a business background. I, kind of wrangled my way into products somehow. I'm very like user centric, kind of have like an operational mind. I love user research and things of that nature, but I've never been to what I would call quote unquote technical, right?
Hmm.
So I love just diving into these tools. So I've become obsessed with a lot of database stuff like Supabase, a lot of authentication, API tools, web scraping tools. Every single day I'm learning a new tool. I feel like I'm the tool guy at this point, but yeah, I use it for everything, literally.
Yeah. And I love that you do use it for everything as you shared because it can take you so much further, as you've kind of alluded to. And I'd love to hear from your perspective why it's important for startups to embrace AI within their startups. So they might not be an AI startup themselves. They might not be building a product that is leveraging AI, but I think just using it in their startup overall is important for getting to that next step or achieving the goals that they'd like to. So I'd love to hear more about your opinion on that.
Yeah, another really great question. So I think there's like two different paths. There's like the AI native company, which is this would never be possible without AI.
Yeah.
Like literally the product is AI. Sometimes people call that like a ChatGPT wrapper, but it seems like that entire ecosystem is just blown up now. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of opportunity there. And then there's like these existing companies that have been around pre-AI, and it's like, how do you sprinkle some AI pixie dust on top, right? And I want to be the person that says you shouldn't leverage AI just to leverage AI. Like
Hmm.
I feel like there's probably some older executives that are sitting on meetings of like, let's have an AI quarter where we bring the new AI features into our product. Or the founder that's struggling that says, you know, let's update our deck to say AI 3 times to give us a better chance of fundraising. That happens, by the way. Um, so at a high level, I don't think it should go that path,
Yeah.
but I do think you should take a holistic approach or a holistic look at your organization as a whole, both internal and external, like operations, and the product itself, and say,
Hmm.
how might we do this better, right? And it's really interesting because if we go back to that earlier paradigm that we're talking about of like the dot-com boom and the iPhone craze and things of this nature, at some point, every company, there wasn't an internet company and a non-internet company. At some point, every single company had a website. And I think
Mm.
we're on a similar path, which there's not going to be an AI company and not an AI company. It's just going to be a company because
Yeah.
the AI is going to be as synonymous with internet or a keyboard as it is with everything else, right?
Hmm.
And I'm an AI optimist, so I think that's the direction we're heading. So I think everyone should strongly consider leveraging this technology because I do believe it is the future. But I don't think you should be that old executive, which is how do we magically sprinkle some AI, pixie dust on top, and it will magically make things better. I don't think you
Yeah.
should shove AI down users' throats and say AI, AI, AI everywhere. But what if the AI, helps with personalization or it helps
Hmm.
with search or recommendations, or gives them a unique experience when they land on their on your website versus someone else. Um, AI empowers all of that, but you should leverage it in like strategic ways and not just try to sprinkle it on top.
Yeah, I love that approach because I think what you've shared here is just being intentional with it and having a reason for why you're doing it and not just incorporating it because you think that's the new hottest thing that everyone's using.
Yes.
And so
Totally.
I love your thoughts on that of being able to really think about, well, what do we need AI for? How are we going to use it? How is it ultimately going to benefit the end user, which is that's the most important thing really is like who's using the product that you're building and how it's going to support them.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed your question. What was the question?
That you pretty much covered it. But the next thing I
Yeah.
was going to
Okay.
focus on is speaking of building with AI. I mean, I love that you mentioned that you and your daughter are building websites together. I think that's so cute and so fun. And I know that you're also focusing on building a lot of products yourself.
Mhm, mhm.
Shane and I, for our listeners, before we started recording, I was saying how every week on LinkedIn I see him launching something new or pushing something new live, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how he has all this time. But it's impressive. And so, knowing that you're a builder and that's something you're passionate about, I'd love for you to just talk about the projects that you've been building lately and how you've come up with the ideas for them.
Oh my gosh. It's
It's
so funny
probably
that
too
you
many to
mentioned
remember.
there literally is too many. In fact, I started cataloging them on my website. Well, I feel like I have so many websites now. Before AI, so again, I didn't know like what a web designer was. Before AI, I don't think I'd ever like built a website. And just to give
Interesting.
like listeners some context, in the last 6 months, maybe like just, over the last 6 months, I've maybe built 100 websites.
Oh
Like
my
no joke.
gosh.
So I started cataloging them on my my official website, which is shanelykins.com.
Hmm.
I gave up on that because I was just building websites too fast and like didn't want to put them there. So you will see like very interesting things. You'll see my conversational agent that I talked about, which is the ability to kind of have an interview with someone and then it actually scores at the end, which is kind of cool. So it kind of gives a recommendation if you should move forward with the person or not. My wife and I, every single night, we're hungry. And what do you want? I don't know. What do you want? And then I suggest something. She says no. And she suggests something and I say no. So I was like, why is there no Tinder for like dinner? So I built that, being able just to like swipe cards of like yes or no. And I could start a session with my wife and send it to her. And when there's a match, that's where we go to dinner. We'd never really used it, but that was like a really fun project. I'm really into memes, so I built like a meme generator. And I still think this is a really good idea, but leveraging memes for business use is actually like perfect
Yeah.
is actually like a gold mine that no one's like really cracked yet. So I have this whole idea around studying my like posting habits and the audience that I'm going after, which is like founders, marketplace people, AI people, and like pump out relevant new memes based on my audience and
Hmm.
kind of my positioning. So I would say there's like a large gamut of like all these different types of ideas. I don't know how they come to me. I think it's just really random. In fact, I posted this on LinkedIn the other day. You're the fourth person in the last 24 hours that has mentioned my LinkedIn. I had a founder that said, I feel like I should have the reason why I reached out is you're one third of my LinkedIn feed, and I feel like I need to chat with you.
My God, I love that. But it's true. It shows that your strategy and content are working.
And again, it's like maybe deep down I want to be this social media influencer. I really don't. I don't think I do. But again, it's just this like doing the things that you care about and like naturally just
Yeah.
like showing the world and like whatever happens, happens. Like I don't care if people think these ideas are stupid. Like I'm learning and I'm having fun.
Hmm.
And that's all that matters. Um, I feel like I went on a crazy tangent. But yeah, I don't know where these ideas come from. I posted the other day that when you start building, new ideas come about.
Totally.
So before I was a true builder, I had the classic like entrepreneurial thing, which is like I'm gonna sit down and think of a business idea, and like that's not how business ideas come about. It's
No.
you become very frustrated with something you experience in the real world, and you're like, how can I solve that?
Hmm.
So my post the other day was, once you start building, literally ideas are endless.
Yeah.
It's just like finding the right idea that you actually want to pursue versus like getting in this endless loop of like just building silly stuff. But I do think building silly stuff helps you learn new technology. My daughter is on summer break right now, and I want her to have a fun summer. So I built this tool for us to it maps the top 20 playgrounds in San Francisco, and it created this gamified experience, which is you go visit them. So
Mhm.
there's geolocation stuff on it. You snap a photo to verify that you were there, and it checks it off. And your goal is to hit all 20 playgrounds by the end of summer. And it was something I built alongside with her. And she wanted photos, and we thought about reviews together. And we're like, oh, we need a map and a way to push a button to get directions to go to the playground. So I'm
Mhm.
like learning about all these APIs and like how to surface Google Maps and how to tie into like, the native application for Google Maps on my phone because I don't like Apple Maps. And it's like I would have never done these things before. And then in building that, you think about, oh, like, I'm constantly using these API keys all over and over again. Maybe I should build a tool that stores my APIs in a safe place where I can just make a quick call to like my keychain of my APIs without having to like log into all these tools and like find my API key or spin up a new API key. So you just end up building a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah, and what you mentioned too about when you start building, that's when new ideas come. It's so true. It's like you're going through and thinking about something, and then it's like when you're actively not trying to sit somewhere and think about a new idea or come up with something to try, that's when the good ideas are following. And
They hit you.
so, you mentioned too something that I want to dive into further, which is like not acting on every idea. And I'm curious how you stay true to that because it's like how when there's so many things that excite you, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to move forward with this one. But how do you kind of like rein it in and know which ideas that are worth pursuing and which ones aren't?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's the question of the hour for
Yeah.
sure. I think it depends on your goals,
Hmm.
right? And my goals change as a lot of people's goals change. If it's to learn a new technology, then you should probably say yes to more ideas. If it's to learn a certain type of technology, you should say yes to those ideas and say yes or say no to other ideas.
Hmm.
If your goal is I need income, I want to make revenue, or I want to like have MRR and things of this nature, you should probably be a little bit more specific on the types of projects that you're building,
Hmm.
and try to find ideas that you can actually monetize versus it just being kind of a random thought
Yeah.
experiment, right? So the playground idea, no idea if I would ever turn that into like a real thing or monetize. Like people are like throwing ideas, people love it. People are throwing ideas at me like how I could monetize. And I'm like, this is just a tool for my daughter, and I happen to share it on LinkedIn, and everyone loves
Yeah.
it. But there's also like a lot of other like really concrete, strong kind of ideas that you can monetize. And
Hmm.
often these are like experiences that you've had in real life, right?
Yeah.
In your personal life or in your work life. And I've been fortunate that I've worked at many organizations of all different sizes and stages. I've worked in everything from customer support to operations to product operations to product management, like everything in between. So I've seen a lot of different types of things that I feel like could be optimized, and frankly, things that weren't, you weren't able to optimize pre-AI. So there's like
Right.
this, we're having the iPhone moment, which is like, let's just build all of the websites that exist and build them as applications. And there's like an entire industry around that. The same thing is happening right now. It's how can you build, your accounting software that's stuck in the past, but build it AI native, and make it better for yourself and then better for your network and your community. But I had this same question recently as well, which is what ideas are worth chasing, right?
Hmm.
And these vibe coding tools, Bolt's my favorite right now, make it really, really easy for you to like have this embodied experience, for you to build something. But I feel like that the double-edged sword to that is that you end up building a lot more, but you have like less, you have more surface area, but less depth, right?
Yeah.
If you look at my Bolt repo, I was looking, I think I average like 30 to 40 projects a month.
Oh my gosh.
Just like a giant wall of like ideas. And some of these are businesses, other ones are just like I want to spin up something simple to like show one of my clients, right? So like
Hmm.
these aren't all just businesses. But I had the same thought recently, which is, Bolt and these other companies are making it so simple to build, but like you have this inspiration of like an idea that hits your head, and then you just go to these tools and use vibe code. What happened to that layer before where we're actually like thinking through and like validating and analyzing and the market data and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that actually led me to help co-found something I'm working on. I don't think I've told you about
Oh my
this.
gosh, I can't wait to hear
So
more.
I'm working on something called Novi, usenovi.com. And well, we call this kind of a first mile solution for you to validate your idea before you go and build it. So I
Mm.
feel like all these other tools have missed the mark, which is just come to us and like we'll build everything for you.
Hmm.
And again, like an idea is only as good as like the prompt that it's fed it, right? So garbage in, garbage out. A lot of people have a hard time articulating what they actually want, especially if they're not like a builder themselves. So
Right.
I feel like to really capture this whole new wave of people that are creating, people that maybe don't come from the tech industry, people that want to like build ideas or websites for, their mom and pop business and this kind of stuff, you should go to a tool like Novi to validate the idea before you actually go build it.
Hmm.
Because Novi will actually run a full analysis for you and give you positioning. It will help you identify your ICP. It will give you a go-to-market strategy. It will tell you, what the market opportunity is, of what size of business it could be. It will actually feed you like leads, like potential customers that you can go after. And then something we released last week, which is the ability to like spin up a landing page. Like with a press of a button, you can take all of the analysis that we just ran and package it, which again is like much more robust than like just going in and saying like make me a website.
Yeah.
Like LLMs should probably say like what type of website. But now we have like all of this data that we can package and like start to build for you.
Amazing.
So that's what I'm working on right now. It's a ton of fun, and I think we've like really hit a nerve with people because
Hmm.
I think a lot of people are feeling this right now. So we're kind of positioning it as your AI co-founder, the person that you can kind of bounce ideas off of and helps you, run the market analysis and then maybe eventually pitch decks and all that kind of stuff. And we've seen a lot of like really interesting traction over the last few weeks, so it's been fun.
Oh, I love that. Especially because, like you mentioned, like just because you as a potential founder might feel excited about an idea or project doesn't mean that the people that you're looking to market it to or help it with actually need it or feel excited about it themselves. So
Agree.
huge that you're focusing on that validation piece because I think
Yep.
it'll drive either people to choose business ideas that they have been thinking about or potentially not pursue business ideas that they've been thinking about based on what you're seeing with that validation piece.
Yes, and in fact, we want to be deterministic in our
Mm,
outcome. So we actually front and center will tell you after we run the analysis if you should pursue that idea or not. And a lot
yeah.
of times it says no. So
No
imagine you
way.
have this
Yeah.
idea and you're like, why is this thing telling me no? But we've actually received a lot of feedback, which is, I would have wasted 6 months building this thing.
Oh,
And I actually
absolutely.
read through the analysis that Novi put together, and I agree. I think I should not pursue this.
Hmm.
And thank you for saving me the time and the resources. I would have wasted $15,000 in 6 months of my life chasing this thing that makes no sense. Uh,
Totally.
now, then the other side of that is maybe we say no too much. And I do think we're a little bit angled towards like venture scalable business.
Hmm.
So we'll maybe say no to something that would be like a really good idea, but not a venture scalable business. Um, but I use it every single day. And what I realize is even though you see a no, the type of people that are using these tools, even though you see a no, it's not going to make you immediately say, okay, like I'm not going to do it. You broke my heart and my dreams. If
Yeah.
you are determined enough, you don't care who says no to you. You're going to figure out how to do it anyway. So you almost want to like prove the system wrong.
Yeah.
It's actually okay to say no more often than not, and it's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a great piece of advice. And I'm curious to hear too, because especially since you're so integrated in the tech world and you know so many cool people who are doing cool things, like who is someone that you'd like to give kudos to? Someone who's building something really cool or doing something really awesome and innovative.
Ah, there's a few people off the top of my head. I'm sure I'll forget about people as well. So I guess the first person I want to shout out is Collin, Collin Gardner. He's like this marketplace expert guru. He was actually the person that hired me at Outdoorsy. So he's doing a lot of really cool stuff right now. He's actually an early stage investor into startups.
Mhm.
So he's a GP for a fund called Yonder Ventures. And I do some investing through them as well. But he has a lot of really great insight on like AI native marketplaces. So
Mhm.
we definitely follow him. And then there's another. amazing builder coming out of outdoorsy. I feel like there's an outdoorsy mafia brewing at this point. His name is Clif, and Clif is a product person like myself, and he is probably one of the few people. There's a handful of people that I feel like post as much about AI as I do, and I could really see his passion and energy behind it.
Hmm.
Um, he is building a lot of really amazing tools. He is an SEO expert, so he's spinning up a bunch of businesses on how to leverage AI for better SEO.
Oh, nice.
And he has a startup called Longtail. Longtail it builds out programmatic landing pages to kind of drive your SEO strategy. So doing really, really well with that. Um, Man, who else? There's people I follow from a distance that I don't really know. I'm inspired by people like Levels IO on Twitter. The
Yeah.
idea of building these solo SaaS businesses. He's done a lot of vibe coding stuff, especially like in the gaming space. Um, I don't know. There's
Yeah.
probably so many more people, but that's kind of who's top of mind.
Yeah, I love it. Shane, this has been an awesome episode. I've really enjoyed having you come on the show to share everything you're doing. Oh my gosh, you have like so many roles in your hands and so many different things.
Too much.
I'd love for you to share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to learn more about your fractional work, to work with
Yeah.
you and hire you, and even all of the fun projects that you're building and now Novi that you're co-founding.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn. It's where I'm
Hmm.
most active. So just linkedin.com / Shane Lykins.
Hmm.
If you search anything marketplace or AI related, I might actually get pulled up. But you should be able to find me, just Shane Lykins. And then I do post on Twitter, but I haven't quite cracked the algorithm, so I often get discouraged there. I recently got on TikTok, so I posted
Hmm.
my first few TikTok videos within the last week, and I'm having a ton of fun there. Who knows if I'll continue? I feel like social media is like this delicate thing which you need to nurture, and I don't know if I have time for that. So I would say LinkedIn for now. Um, that's the best place to find me for sure.
Cool. And I'll link to those places in the show notes that our listeners can click through and connect with you from there. But thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was fun.